I mean,
Yeah,
it
because you
really,
just gave me chills.
the deficiency model is very focused on fixing the things that are there, not
Mhm. Good
necessarily,
point.
not necessarily in context. So much of the gifted identity is wrapped up into being good at math.
Hi, this is Andy Mahoney here from the Center for Identity Potential. And I have my dear friend and colleague of many, many years. We won't say how long. We may date ourselves. Uh, Elina Hayosh, who has lots of credentials, and she is an academic coach, tutor, teacher in the area of math. And today we're going to talk about her work with gifted kids and math and some of the issues related to what it even means to have your kid go see an academic coach or tutor who is gifted in math. And I want people, with all full disclosure, to get a sense of your work and to support your work at the center. So part of my intention today is so people know about your work and that the clientele out there that needs you can have access to you. Because what does it really mean for a gifted kid to have vulnerabilities, um, what we could say, glitches in their math process, in their growth? And so when a gifted kid has problems with math, it creates a problem in the general cultural sense and the stereotypes around gifted. And what we've discussed is how having a math and science identity is critical these days in a bizarre, really not so healthy way about what it means to be gifted.
Sure.
And so if a child is struggling in math and they're coming from the world that gifted is all about math and science in order to be valid as gifted, when you're having a math problem, you're not necessarily going to seek out Elina Hayosh at the center to help you with your kid.
Yeah.
And so I know from your work that most of your referrals actually come from people who know your work.
Yes.
And work with you. And what we're trying to do is say, hey, there are issues out there that gifted kids in math could actually get some private acceleration, support, some remediation, and some really good challenge to develop their math skills.
My thoughts is I want to get back to what you were saying earlier about the fact that so much of the gifted identity is wrapped up into being good at math. And I think one of the things that happens is gifted kids, a lot of them anyway, have pretty decent memory. And they do a lot of things in their heads. And they can skate by on that for many, many years. And to be able to do that, to be effective by doing that.
Yeah.
And then they get to higher level mathematics, let's say calculus, let's say maybe a little earlier. It will depend on the child. But they will eventually get to the point where that is no longer sufficient. And they hit a wall and they come to this point in their life where they don't understand something.
Mm-hmm.
And that messes with their heads because they're so
So,
used to being competent.
yeah, let me interrupt there because
Yeah,
at that point, that's where I know you're doing something different
yeah,
because you have that really great understanding of that process. And how I frame it is a lot of times I'll say it's like a rich kid who's born with a big inheritance and they just run it to the end and then there's nothing left. So they're banking off their innate ability that's gotten some challenge, and it goes, and it's different for different age. It can be different ages where they kind of hit that wall you're talking about.
yeah.
So what do you think if you can you say something about your process when you get them at that point? What do you think you do that might be unique in helping them with that hurdle?
I start out by being very straight with them and I translate their emotions. I help them translate their emotions to them and I help them
You mean
understand.
success in math has something to do with expressing emotion?
Oh God, yeah.
Really? I love it.
It's huge for them to see because a lot of times what that happens if a kid like that is in school, a regular classroom teacher is not going to recognize what is happening. they will see the symptoms. They will see the acting out. They will see becoming a class clown for some of them. They will see that, and they will zero in on that, and they will have no clue what's really going on with the child underneath. I can cut through that. I see right through it. I can cut through that, and I let the kids know that I see it. And
Yeah, and that's where all your years and years of experience and expertise is invaluable in this process.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the fact that you cut through it, because what you're doing is what we believe, is that they truly want reality. They want to know what's the real problem. They don't want to be sugar coated. They want you to be able to diagnose and say, look, here's the real issue, and this is the complexity of it, and this is the emotional aspect that comes with being in the place you're in. I think you're addressing all of that really well. So let's talk a little bit then about the part about the process where not everybody needs your help because there's some deficiency model. This is the part that it really kind of bothers me in terms of help, in the paradigm of help. Everybody looks at it as, well, you have to have a deficiency in order to get help. Well, I don't know who isn't in life when they're really accurately challenged appropriately and accelerated into where they should be with scaffolding, that they wouldn't have areas to grow in. And that aspect of growth and getting support like you offer seems to get lost in the deficiency model.
It does. And it also, the deficiency model is very focused on fixing the things that are there, not necessarily in context. They're looking at each problem as an individual thing to be fixed, rather than stepping back and looking at the entire system.
I love that.
So thank you. And
no, that I've never heard it put that way in terms of dealing with a math growth issue. So I like the way you contextualize that for people, because they do get very caught up in the linear aspect of it. And you're also throwing in the developmental, and you're throwing in the complexity of teaching math.
Yes.
And can you say a little bit more about what people can get when they start to look at the process you offer as a growth process versus a deficiency model? What do you think the outcome, how does that change things?
They start seeing the relevance of math in their lives. They start seeing it as an integral part of their lives. They hopefully start to see the joy of it, because there's so much out there that's just pure fun. I mean,
yeah, because you just gave me chills. When we talk about math is relevant, you're like going right to my heart and soul in terms of math. And my concern out there in the world, and a lot of people's, is that we don't teach children and help them see the relevance of math in their lives. Was there anything you wanted to add about your work that you feel people wouldn't necessarily get at first, but that they might have trouble grasping at the beginning? That because this is what we find in our work, is that in the beginning they always want to fix things, and they get lost in the immediacy of having to have it done right now. And I wonder if you can address that, because I'm sure you get into that process. And how you help take people through that, or how you contend when they're really, on the edge of saying this isn't really helping, but it will.
That's a difficult one, because a lot of my students, kids that I see, they're the ones who ask their parents to contact me. It's not the parents that come to me, it's the kids who tell their parents, this is the only time that I understood mathematics and it actually made sense, and now I'm struggling, please reach out. And so
this is when you were working in the context of a school.
Yes.
Correct.
So what I get now is that the kids who have,
I like that. We have to underline that, because when you present yourself and your being to these kids, they get a sense that you have something that would help them, and they become self-directed learners at that point. They're
Yes,
actually initiating you,
correct.
and that's ideal. If somebody wants to work with you, they can contact the center. We're going to evaluate how your work with them fits into what we're helping them
Yes,
do. And we also want to make sure that people know you're available through our center for anybody who just really wants to go down the road of developing their math and accelerating themselves appropriately. I like to say always with scaffolding, because whenever you accelerate a gifted child, you really need to understand the scaffolding that goes with that. That's for another discussion. So they can contact us directly. And before we like sign off, so when we're done, you're going to hit end record here.
okay.
I want you to tell me, what was it like to talk to me about this today?
It was fun. It actually was. But it also made me think about things in a way that I had not necessarily thought about before. Um, because my process is very holistic.
Uh-huh.
I approach the whole child. Um, and so I don't even think often about all the threads that come into it, but yet they're very much a part of it.
Hope that people who see this will give you a shot at letting you be there for them.
I hope so too.